Okay, so we're getting some chairs in. There's a lady that is waving and waving and waving. Hello, I know you're there for the 5th time. Thank you. You guys are really excited, huh? This is exciting. It's freaking awesome. I think that we have actually broken the record of the record that we already broke because we actually have 5 halls that you all stood in line through, which I think is a new record. I just figured it'd be more entertaining since I have a live mic to actually say something while we're waiting for everybody to get in and get the video sorted out and whatnot. Even though I'm going to be introduced, you already know who I am, or else you wouldn't be here, right? So we're going to be also taking the light down a little bit. Look at that. That was a prophecy that immediately came true. My God, I'm good. I'm telling you, this is really happening. So does anybody have a direction as far as our video is going? How close are we to live and in action? We're good? We're ready? Okay, would you guys like to hear me be introduced? Is that just as formal? You know, it's kind of like a thing. So we have Shima Moore, my good friend, and I've secretly paid her to say flattering things about me. So come on up here, Shima.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's so exciting to welcome you tonight. It's the 13th Annual Conscious Life Expo. And today, this weekend, we have people from around the world joining us. So not only have we maxed out this room, but we have spread out across the entire world. Is that cool or what? We are growing, and we are growing because of speakers like David Wilcock. David has been with us, and I tried to actually Google how long you've been with us, but he has been with us for many years, and through those years, I have watched his audiences grow and grow. Is it 10 years? How's that? 10 years. And his audiences have grown and grown and grown. And when he first came, he was known as the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. And since that time, he has expanded in so many directions and has touched the lives of so many people. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He's a TV star. He's working on a film, Contact. He is touching us in so many ways. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome your friend and mine, David Wilcock.
Well, to be fair, the film is called Convergence, but we're working on it with the guy who wrote Contact. Contact already exists, and it's pretty awesome. Okay, so we have probably one of the most adventurous, exciting, information-packed shows that I have ever done. And this is the first time that we are actually doing a conference here and that it is going live worldwide simultaneously. So I want to say hello to everybody out there in TV land who's watching this on the internet, and say hello to all of you as well. So what are we talking about here? We have a very interesting new history that has come our way as a result of information that is leaked to us from people working for what is called the SSP, or Secret Space Program. Now, what is that? The Secret Space Program is why nobody went back to the moon since like 1970. That's a long time. Oh, well, yeah, been there, done that. Don't need to go back. We figured it all out. We know there's moon dust up there. It's all good. No. I want to welcome you to an idea. I want you to give this idea a habitat in your mind. Because with the idea comes freedom from the stricture of ignorance that has been deliberately put upon you by those who do not wish their control to be usurped. Boy, those are a lot of SAT words. This guy's pretty amazing. Big words. Yeah, I like to talk that way. Sorry if y'all don't like it, but it's just my thing. I didn't even do that good on the SATs. I only got 680 verbal when I was in like 6th grade. That's true. Anyway, so the secret space program is what happened as a result of things like the Nazis developing flying saucer technology in the 1930s, which came about in part through the work of Victor Schauberger. You probably have heard of him before, since you're all a very educated audience. It came about through a liaison that was created telepathically with extraterrestrials through the Vril Society. People like Maria Orsich channeled these Anunnaki beings, and there was, in fact, one of my insiders told me, a very credible insider, and I have over a dozen of them who are really good, that there was a meeting in the Himalayas in about 1936 with these Anunnaki, and that a treaty with what became the Nazis was signed. And there was a technology exchange and an information exchange that allowed the Nazis to achieve anti-gravity spacecraft that actually worked. And pretty quickly, once you have anti-gravity spacecraft, what else you're going to have is the ability to travel outside the Earth and go take a look around. Now, here's one of the really, really cool things that we find out that you're going to hear in this talk, is that our solar system had some very, very interesting people come through a long time ago. About 5 million years ago is their estimate. And they really built it out. There is a whole amazing amount of ancient technology in our solar system. There are build-outs all over the place. And one of the things that I like to do, and I take this very seriously, I joke about it, but this is serious, I am deliberately disclosing things that could get me killed in front of this audience so that once it's out, it's out. You'll notice I did not announce that I was going to do this until this morning on my website, because these people work fast. Okay, so I do believe that the information I'm going to put here could get me in trouble, but I also believe that you need to know the truth, and that's more important than my physical safety. Thank you. Furthermore, publicity is protection. The fact that I'm disclosing this information to you vis-a-vis prevents me from being martyred, because then they would create a hero, and they don't want a hero. So instead, you're going to look on all these hate sites about me online that say that I have dressed up in drag in San Francisco, that I'm gay. I mean, there's all kinds of haterade you can drink on the internet about me. Plenty. Anything you could imagine that's disparaging about me is out there. And it's not even true. None of it is true. There's just lies upon lies. So let's see if this is going to work. Let's ask some big questions. What are the big questions? Who are we? Why are we here? Where did we come from? And where are we going? What is the big picture? Where is this all going? That is ultimately something that, for me, actually came about through this book beginning in 1978. I was born in 1973. I was 5 years old when I got this book. And believe it or not, my grandmother bought me this book, and she was a fundamentalist Christian, and a rabid fundamentalist Christian. But she thought that if she got me this book, that it would make me want to read. And it sure as heck did. This is from Reader's Digest. I did not understand a lot of what I was reading, but the pictures were really cool. Now, what you're seeing here is right at the very back of the book, and it's a big, nice, thick 2-inch book, and right at the end, there's the last chapter, section 5. It's called The World of Tomorrow, and if you can see it there, it says Enigma of the UFO, and that's the first time in the whole freaking book that they mention UFOs, right at the end. And I saw these pictures right here, and this was my first exposure to UFOs. Now, as a child, in 1978, the idea that these pictures could have been fake didn't even occur to me. I just assumed that these people were writing about this, and it was true. The idea of it being debunked never occurred to me. Well, I was so excited about the idea that people were coming here from other planets that I just tripped out like crazy when I read this part of the book. And I kept going back to this. I literally, as a child, spent hours and hours and hours looking at this picture and just kind of fantasizing about who are they? How did they get here? Where did they come from? What is this thing? That was a long time ago. And then this thing tripped me out even more. Looking into the future, a conversation with science writer Isaac Asimov, and it says right here, the Great Trek, as, you know, it says something to the effect of that humanity is going to expand itself beyond the Earth, and that what we're going to end up doing at that point, when we use up the Earth's own resources, is we will start to hollow out asteroids and live inside of asteroids in fully habitable worlds. Now, I'm literally not kidding, and I just scanned this morning from the same book that I used to spend so many hours looking at. I tripped out on this so many times on this picture that to put it into the show now just makes me feel really warm inside. It really does. It turns out that almost, well, we don't know if it's all, but a significant majority of the moons and large asteroids in our solar system have this type of build-out inside them. But the thing is, they don't have an opening like that. There's not going to be some big gate that you can get in through. They fly through the rock using a technology that allows them to permeate matter temporarily. This was a very highly advanced civilization, as you're going to see. The people that did this were extremely tall. We're talking 70 to even 100 feet in height. Extremely tall. So what I'm saying to you is that there are moons all over the solar system that will have this kind of architecture built inside them, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures that suggest that that's what's going on. Now, I began to really research UFOs in college in 1993 when I first really awakened to all this. And then in 1996, after reading about 500 books, and I'm literally not joking, I was reading 5 books a week. I had them, everything from the library, the entire 000 section in the old Dewey Decimal System. I just emptied that stuff out. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, you know, Loch Ness Monster, aliens, UFOs, Atlantis, pyramids, Stonehenge, every book I could find. I just devoured the stuff. Then this came along in 1996, and it absolutely floored me because I thought I had started to put together a pretty robust model of how things really work. I didn't know anything until this came along. And once I got into the Law of One, and the first book is called The Ra Material, that is the name of the alleged source of this material is Ra, claiming that it was a group that contacted the Egyptians, I realized that I only had gotten the sort of red ochre cave painting version of the story from my own research up until then, whereas this is like the Lamborghini. The Lambo! So there is so much to be said about this Law of One material that is so fascinating, and their particular interest was in something that they called harvest, which I now refer to usually as ascension. They say that there is going to be a very significant energetic change in our entire solar system and in what it means to be alive on Earth, and that the change will essentially reach a what they call quantum leap somewhere in the general vicinity of 30 years after 1981. That's 2011. So this was what led me to believe that 2012 was going to be something really big. Now, before that, I had already been told, as I said on George Norrie's panel today, I had already been told by someone who definitely showed me that he was an insider with highly advanced knowledge, that what I thought was 2012 was actually going to come in 2017. I've been holding on to that since 2009. I've never said it publicly before because I just didn't feel comfortable putting out another date. But what's happened now is that we have 2 more insiders, and then those 2 insiders can be double-clicked on, and you have to look at all of their contacts. And they have multiple contacts at the very highest levels of the space program, the real space program. And we now have robust multi-insider confirmation that everybody on the inside is expecting some massive plunge into a totally mysterious energetic transformation, and they do not understand where this is going or what's going to happen. But it appears to potentiate human evolution. It appears to have some sort of energetic effect on our DNA, and one of the things they think it might do is literally propel us into something akin to like an ayahuasca type of LSD experience. And everybody's going to be trying to make sense of this, but probably a few people in this audience have had some experience with those domains. Don't raise your hand. This is all on live video. You want to be able to get a job later on. I got my steampunk vest here, so, no suggestive inferences could be drawn from that. So the law of one, to me, gives us a big picture that ties this whole thing together. There's some kind of energetic shift going on, and there's a lot of posturing on Earth right now because the negative forces that are controlling what you could think of as the Federal Reserve System and the major Western governments, they are going to lose control of the planet. And they are fighting tooth and nail to stop this because for them, this is not ascension. They see this as a bad thing. They see this as we are going to lose control of the slaves, which is not good for them, but great for us. Okay? Oh, and by the way, once this change takes place, ostensibly, you will then be able to have, once you learn how to do it, the ability to levitate, the ability to have telekinesis, the ability to communicate telepathically, to teleport yourself, to bilocate yourself, to create food by just picking up a handful of dirt and poof, turn it into whatever you want. That's the type of abilities that we're talking about here. We literally become like gods. And Jesus actually said that. Here we go. John 14:12. Read the Bible. It says, Jesus said, "As I do these things, so shall ye do them." When he says these things, he's not talking about scratching his butt. He's talking about levitation, water into wine, loaves and fishes. That's what's going to happen. And they cannot stop this. It's programmed evolution. It's a genetic galactic program because DNA is fundamentally intertwined with our energetic background in space. So I want to give you a little bit of homework to get this whole thing kicked off. And I want to talk about the holographic universe because this is going to make a lot more sense. The Cabal, or Illuminati, I'll choose Cabal because there's some people in the Illuminati who get upset if I drop that term negatively. And, I want to respect that. I'm definitely not in the Illuminati myself, but there's this one dude who keeps writing me, and every time I write an article where it says the Illuminati, he goes, "Come on, man. Can you just please call it Cabal?" I'm like, "Okay, dude, fine. I don't care. Call it whatever you want. Call it the Flying Spaghetti Monster. They're real." Okay? Holographic universe is one of the things they don't want you to know because it will help free the slaves. So what have they done? They've filled your mind up with this garbage. Oh, well, you got to understand all this stuff if you want to know anything about how the universe works. All this mathematical, algebraic stuff that we write on chalkboards to make us look cool. If you don't know this, you don't know anything. The universe is mysterious, it's super mathematical, and you're not going to be able to make any sense out of it. Well, here's the problem. It doesn't actually add up. This guy came up with a model that gives us a much better view of atoms and molecules themselves. Dr. Hans Jenny, a Swedish scientist, took a drop of water and vibrated it with just pure sound. So you have water and sound, that's it. The water is vibrating. Then what does he do? He puts sand in the water. Water with sand under vibration. When you do that, believe it or not, if you haven't seen this before, this is a big reveal for a lot of people. Sound in water with sand in it does not just do murky water. It creates beautiful, strikingly sharp-edged geometry. This, I believe, is how matter is being created. Matter is like the Star of David in the middle there, and the matter is being created as sort of like a crystal coming out of this hidden fluid that we would now call dark matter. You can take the same drop of water with the same sand in it, and just by changing the frequency or the tone, You get a totally different geometric structure, and as long as the sound stays the same, the geometry is totally stable and solid. It doesn't change. It just sits there. It's called a standing wave. So imagine now that the atoms that make up your body are made of standing waves like the form on the left. Well, what would happen if we changed the frequency of sound? The atoms themselves could actually go into some totally different type of construct, like what you see on the right. And that's exactly what I believe the science is telling us is going to happen in our solar system. So you have 12 panes here of 12 different phases of the same drop of water with the same sand, and the only thing we've changed is the sound. And look at all the different forms that you get. That's pretty amazing. That shows the power of this. Now, what are these shapes called? The purest shapes that you get in the water are called the platonic solids, invented by Plato. And there's 5. You got your tetrahedron, top right, octahedron, like 2 Egyptian pyramids, base to base, icosahedron, which is a 20-sided, like a soccer ball, equilateral triangles. You got the cube, which has squares, and you got your dodecahedron with pentagons. Now, what are these? Again, remember, these are only vibrations. It's just a physical way of measuring vibration. That's all we're looking at here. And these are very symmetrical. They have the same length on every side. They have the same angle in every corner. Each face is the same shape, and the shapes themselves are generally all equilateral triangles, or in the case of the pentagon, each of the internal angles is the same. So these shapes actually, as it turns out, make up the basic structure of the nucleus of the atom. And this is a technical discussion that I'm not going to get into tonight, but suffice it to say that as you add protons, that what protons actually are is the corners of these geometric forms. And if you watch, here comes the big plug now, wait for it. If you watch my show on Gaiam TV, wisdomteachings.com, thank you. I have a lot of discussion into that. This is about the solar system, so I'm not going to get all into this crazy physics. But let's just say that the science that's what matter is made out of, that it's a geometric crystal, is very good. And here you have something from Daily Mail, just came out last year, suggesting indeed that the universe is made from a superfluid and that matter is essentially crystallized out of that superfluid. That's pretty darn cool. And that's showing us the power of what is right in front of your face. The science is there. It is being suppressed for a reason, because as soon as we start to see that matter is not made out of solid little particles, but that it's vibrational in nature, why couldn't I put my hand through the chandelier? I just changed the vibration of my hand. Whoop! It's not solid anymore. It's just in a phase, and I could change my phase and pass right through it. That's the real thing here. So, I mentioned this on the stage at George Norrie's panel. If you weren't there, I'm going to go over it again. This frickin' blew me away. I found this on the airplane September 17th, 2013. Totally changed my world. This was an article that was describing the work of these 2 scientists, Nima Arkani-Hamed and Yaroslav Trunka. Yeah, I practiced that. I tell you what. That took some doing. Nima Arkani-Hamed, a professor at the Institute for Advanced Study, and his former student and co-author Yaroslav Trunka, who finished his PhD at Princeton University in July and is now a postdoc at Caltech. So there they are, 2 Caltech guys hacking the craziest puzzle of quantum physics, which led them to the conclusion that all of space and time did not emerge in an explosion like the so-called Big Bang. It's an emanation from a single geometric form. What in the world? What they're actually saying is that everything we see, everything we know, the whole entire universe is a spread out form of one tiny little particle that's tinier than anything in the quantum realm that we normally measure. And the name that they gave for this little form is called the amplituhedron. And I got really, really, really excited when I read this article. The positive Grassmannian is another mathematical name for it. Now this is a sort of non-specific diagram that they made of what it might look like, but that, my friends, is what caught my attention. Do you start to see something familiar about that? Now bear in mind, what are we saying here? This is the face of God. If you want to choose to use an anthropomorphic, sexist, male, macho, chauvinist name for the Creator, right? God. But a lot of people are still comfortable with that word. It totally depends, you know. You never know. In this community, one person could get real upset about that. Somebody else is totally fine. I look at that and I say, my goodness, if the entire universe is this thing spreading out all the time in these constant breaths that are too fast for us to perceive the intervals between its expansion and its contraction, that's what they're saying the whole universe is. The farthest edges of the whole visible universe with all those galaxies and all those stars are the expansions of this guy, and time. Past, present, and future all already have happened, and they all exist simultaneously. Now that's a trip. That requires some psychedelic enhancement to really meditate on. So if you look at this was Sir Roger Penrose in the 1970s, thought he'd figured it out, and that was his model of what it looked like based on the math. And then these two guys from Princeton, one of them was from Princeton, they're both now working at Caltech. They finished the math, and it's a long subject. I have at least 4 episodes of my show on Gaiam TV just dedicated to explaining all this. I'm not going to really go into it. Here's what I wanted you to see. That amplituhedron is exactly 1/4 of the Merkaba, which is one of the basic shapes that you get from vibrating water, just like I showed you before. This is like the highest level, awesome new science that we're getting, and look at how they phase into each other. You see that? It's beautiful. So for me, this constitutes a very effective proof of concept that the universe is in fact an emanation of sacred geometry, which is exactly what the ancient Tibetans were saying. This is the Vajravarahi Mandala, and it is a Star of David. And notice that they're saying that this is what the universe is created from. Wow, that sounds pretty familiar. The reason why they know this advanced stuff is because extraterrestrials gave it to them who are more advanced than us. We have to humble ourselves and realize we're not the only game in town, and we're not the most advanced game in town. We're just getting started. And you've probably also heard of the so-called Merkaba, like the Merkaba meditation, in which you visualize this shape as your energy body. Well, why would you do that? Because ultimately you are that Merkaba. You made the universe. That's the message in the Law of One. That's the message in Buddhism. All the great ancient teachings that get you to ascension. If you want to get there, you stop thinking of yourself as an individual, and you expand your view of self to include everything. And then within that becomes a loving consciousness in which you would want to help and support and love other people instead of manipulate and control and enslave them, which reinforces separation, where you're saying, I'm better than the rest of this stuff around me. In oneness, in love, you're saying, I am integrated with everything around me, and I honor and respect its free will, because we're all out there earning our own keep in the universe through building up good karma by treating other people kindly. There is an absolute law of what is fair and unfair, what is right and wrong in the universe, and it's the law of free will, according to the Law of One. So forget about what one lawyer is going to, if you can buy the justice you need, right? It's not about that. There's an absolute cosmic standard, and ETs in the higher levels above the level that we're at now, in the positive sense, their primary role is managing this illusion that we have so that you can go out there and get in trouble and do things that hurt other people, and they will dutifully arrange your bad karma to show up. And then you think it's random. You think something just happened, and there's no correlation. It drove me crazy as a kid. Like watching people do something very hurtful and immediately getting bad karma. And then I'd say, do you see the connection? But oh, no.